Chapter 1161. Liana. Gu Mingming called out, gesturing for the little lion's mother to carry the child away. But Liana smiled shyly and said, "Great messenger, if you like him, just keep him. Nelson and I are both perfect orcs. I was the first beauty in my original tribe, while Nelson was the first warrior in his original tribe. Our child will definitely be healthy and beautiful, and will become a powerful male in the future." Gu Mingming sighed and said, "I know he will be an outstanding child, but I am not a strange aunt. The next time I go to Sauter, bring the 2 brothers along with me. Sauter should have a female cub born this year. We must nurture our relationship from a young age." With that, Gu Mingming looked at Paige and said, "You should also come with me. After all, females are precious and rare, try not to let them go to outsiders." Paige smiled and nodded and said, "I will listen to the great messenger's arrangements." Liana was also smiling. Her personality was different from Mandy's. She was the carefree type, and her likes and dislikes were all written on her face. If it wasn't for the fact that her family's males were strong, she wouldn't know how badly she would be bullied with her carefree attitude. Just like before winter, when the 16 valued females were discussing how to teach Maya a lesson, only Liana opened her mouth to criticize her. It was not that others did not stand by and do nothing, but that she was too powerful and others could not even interrupt. Gu Mingming actually liked this kind of straightforward person. Sometimes, she might not speak nicely, but at least you did not have to worry about her stabbing you in the back. Liana carried the little lion and sat cross-legged beside Gu Mingming. She tilted her head and looked at Leah, then asked, "Great messenger, you still haven't told me what happened to your family during winter? Look at how much prettier the witch doctor has become. His skin is so good that it is glowing." Gu Mingming then turned back to look at Leah carefully again. Yeah, his skin had really become better than before. It was just that she did not feel it because she was looking at him every day. But now that Liana mentioned it, Gu Mingming touched it. Tsk, it was as smooth as congealed fat. Tisk. Gu Mingming shook her head in disdain and said, "Can't you give females a way out? Why are you so good-looking as a man? MMM? You'll only like me if I'm good-looking." Leah chuckled as he understood the boasting and pride in Gu Mingming's disdain. He pinched her little face dotingly, and felt that the more he looked at her, the more he liked her and the cuter she was. Gu Mingming could not suppress the smile at the corner of her lips. She turned her face towards Liana, and did not look at Leah. She pretended that she did not see him and answered Liana, "It should be because he drank the grape wine. The few barrels of grape wine that I prepared before winter all went into his stomach. He became like this after playing a drunken game with Elvis and me for an entire winter." Grape wine. Liana's eyes sparkled as she looked at Gu Mingming and asked, "Then, do you still have that grape wine? Can you give me some too? I want to give some to my Nelson to make him look good too." It was beautiful. Was it really okay to use such adjectives on males? Was Gu Mingming the only one who found it weird? Sighing, Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "No more, Leah drank it all by himself." Oh. Liana pouted her lips in disappointment and lowered her head. Digression. Alright my babies. Today's update has ended. Chapter 1162. Nelson is the strongest in your family, right? Leah stopped Gu Mingming, who was about to speak, and asked first. Liana nodded her head as a reply. Leah said, "Then even if we still have wine, we cannot let him drink it." Liana looked at Leah in confusion and tilted her head to ask, "Why?" Leah recalled his crazy actions this winter, and could not help but shake his head with a bitter smile. Drinking wine will cause him to lose control of his mind for a period of time, and he will not even know what he has done. If Nelson starts to act crazily after drinking wine, no one in your family can control him. It's fine if it's just once or twice, but for an entire winter. Ha, I suspect that before winter ends, all the other males in your family will be dead. So serious? Liana stared at Leah with her beautiful eyes wide open. Leah nodded and said, "If not, why am I the one drinking wine in our family and not Elvis?" That's right. All the resources in the family should be enjoyed by the first partner after the females. If not for this side effect, Elvis should be the one who becomes beautiful after drinking wine. Thinking about this, Leanna believed Lee's words completely and nodded in agreement, saying, "That's true, we cannot let Nelson drink it. The other males in our family cannot defeat him." Leanna twitched her lips and did not continue asking Gu Mengmeng about the wine. Obviously, other than Nelson, the other males in their family were not enough for her to ask for anything from the messenger of the beast deity. Gu Mengmeng was a little confused and asked, "You want the wine just for Nelson? Have you never thought of drinking it yourself?" "Drinking it myself?" Leanna looked at Gu Mengmeng in confusion and asked, "Why would a female like me want to become beautiful?" Gu Mengmeng was speechless from the question, and only felt that she was a little square. Wasn't it natural for women to love beauty? Didn't they not regret it even if they died for beauty? What did she mean by, "Why would a female like me want to become beautiful?" Leanna looked at Gu Mengmeng's strange gaze and laughed awkwardly, saying, "Actually, I feel that our Nelson is quite good. He is strong and loyal. We have 2 sons now, and we are already very happy. But he always feels that he is not good-looking enough and feels inferior, so I want to ask the messenger for some wine to make him good-looking so that he will not feel inferior." Males would feel inferior because they were not good-looking enough? How ugly would that be? Gu Mengmeng thought for a long time, but she could not remember how Leanna's lion looked like, so she just gave up. She would know when Elvis and the rest returned from their hunt later on. But Gu Mengmeng smiled and looked at Leanna, asking, Do you mind his inferiority?" Leanna nodded and said, "Didn't I get a fire fox at the beauty pageant last year? Ever since we had that fox, our Nelson had been acting strangely. He often sighed and said that he wasn't good-looking enough. He was worried that I wouldn't like him in the future. In order to not let his imagination run wild, I only mated with him this entire winter in order to give birth to a litter of cubs for him. I originally thought that he wouldn't feel inferior anymore, but he actually asked me if I didn't owe him anything after I gave birth to the child, and if I would never love him again. Question. Chapter 1163. Leanna looked at Gu Mengmeng speechlessly, like a lost young girl waiting for her spiritual mentor to answer her questions, completely at a loss of what to do. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. The beast world and the ancient times were simply swapped versions of men and women. Palace scheming was all acted out by the males. It would be easier if she met a smart one, but this Leanna was obviously not on the same level as that fox in their family. The fire in the backyard was about to burn her eyebrows, but this silly girl was still clueless. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and waved at Leanna. Leanna shifted forward, getting closer to Gu Mengmeng, waiting for her to answer her questions with a face full of curiosity. Gu Mengmeng pretended to be mysterious, like an expert on the relationship between the sexes. "Actually, other than drinking, there's another way to make a male look better." "What is it?" Leanna's eyes immediately lit up, staring straight at Gu Mengmeng. That gaze, was exactly the same as when Gu Mengmeng saw a 3% increase in salary on the payslip before she transmigrated. Urgency, desire, excitement. Gu Mengmeng nodded mysteriously, then whispered into Leanna's ear. "The secret is to kiss his lips 3 times a day. Whisper a word of love into his ear, with a reason, the effect will be better. Persist for 81 days like this, and he will become better looking and more confident." "Really?" Leanna said it as a question, but her tone was firm. Gu Mengmeng could even see the stars shining above her head and her eager eyes. Gu Mengmeng nodded. "But this method can only be used once per female. Once you break it in the middle, it will not be effective anymore. So you have to persist for 81 days. "Alright, I understand. Thank you, mighty messenger." Leanna swore solemnly, almost kneeling down and kowtowing in worship. Gu Mengmeng smiled and waved her hands. Just as she was about to ask about that fox in their family, Leanna beat her to it, looking up at Gu Mengmeng and asking, "But how long is 81 days?" Holding her forehead, Gu Mengmeng had forgotten that females in the beast world could not count. 81 days was equivalent to 3 months, if she calculated it this way. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. "Counting from today until the end of the monsoon season, it will be 81 days. "Oh, okay, I understand." Leanna clenched her fists and gestured in front of her chest. She made a gesture that seemed like she was cheering them on. Then, She picked up her 2 sons and sat on the edge of the platform of the deity's punishment. She looked at the direction that the hunting team would definitely pass by when they returned. She muttered to herself, "My sons, when your father returns, your mother will pounce on him. If he dares to resist, you two will help me hold him down. Do you hear me?" "Ao ao ao," Little Bun responded in a childish voice. Gu Mingming shook her head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Which male would resist being pounced on by his own female? Moreover, Nelson was a level 4 orc. If he wanted to resist, how could these 2 little fellows, who could not even stand steadily, hold him down? This Lyanna was really a clown. Others might believe her words, but Leah knew that she was trying to fool them again. Chapter 1164. Every year's first hunt was an important ritual. The males would fight with the most ferocious beasts and bring back the fattest prey for the tribes which doctored to sacrifice to the beast deity. But Saint Nazir was slightly different. Because of Gu Mingming's existence, the fattest prey was directly offered to Gu Mingming herself. Gu Mingming was happy to see this happen. After all, Saint Nazir was under her protection. Her father was busy watching television dramas every day, and even if the tribe really offered him food, he would not be able to eat it. It was not a bad idea to let her own daughter take advantage of it. When the running footsteps shook the ground, Gu Mingming knew that the warriors of the tribe had returned. The heroic aura that assaulted her made her feel excited. Gu Mingming stood up to welcome them. From afar, she saw Elvis carrying a giant beast and walking towards her in a heroic manner. As Elvis's footsteps got closer, the smile on Gu Mingming's face became more obvious. Elvis placed the giant beast on the platform of the deity's punishment for Leah to handle. The moment the beast was placed down, Gu Mingming had already crashed into Elvis's arms. Elvis lowered his head and kissed her hair. He pulled her into his arms and said with a voice full of smiles, "Did you miss me?" "Yeah," Gu Mingming admitted without any hesitation. Elvis felt a sweetness in his heart. He pinched Gu Mingming's little face and kissed her lips deeply. After a long while he let go and said, "I miss you too. I miss you so much that I go crazy the moment I see you. Why don't we let someone else be the tribe leader next year? Then I won't have to lead the tribe to hunt, and stay by your side." Gu Mingming chuckled and bit Elvis's chin, saying, "Fatuous ruler. I will be whatever you say." Elvis's indulgence towards Gu Mingming had no bottom line. As long as she was happy, he would do anything. Gu Mingming lightly hammered Elvis's chest and said, "Let's get down to business first. Announce this year's #1 warrior." Elvis nodded and carried Gu Mingming in his arms. Although winter had ended, it was still cold. He was unwilling to let Gu Mingming stand on the ground, afraid that she would catch a cold. Moreover, he missed her so much that he was going crazy after not seeing her for half a day. Taking a deep breath, Elvis took 2 steps forward and said, "Based on the results of the first hunt, I announce that this year's #1 warrior of the tribe is Nelson." Roar! All the beasts cheered. Obviously, Narration deserved the title. Before the roar could finish, it came to an abrupt halt. Everyone looked at Lyanna, who had leaped down from the platform of the deity's punishment, as if their acupoints had been sealed. They were unable to react in time. That was because Lyanna had transformed into a half-orc and pounced down. Her 2 hands had turned into sharp claws that pressed down on Nelson's shoulders while her 2 legs were wrapped around Nelson's waist. Her eyes were so fierce that it seemed as though she wanted to start a fight with Nelson. Nelson had a dumbfounded expression on his face as he stared at Lyanna, who had suddenly pounced on him. He had no idea what she was going to do. "Don't move," Lyanna shouted. Gu Mingming face-bombed and thought to herself, "Oh my god, is this the seductive female from the beauty pageant? Are you sure you're not robbers from Yangshan?" Why did she have a feeling that Lyanna's next sentence would be, "Young master is so handsome. Why don't you be my husband?" The feeling of. Chapter 1165. "I love you," Lyanna said with her eyes wide open. To be honest, this sentence did not sound like a confession, but more like extortion. If the words "I love you" were changed to "hand over the money," there would be no sense of awkwardness. Nelson was taken aback for a moment, before his face blushed, as if he was shy. He swallowed his saliva and nodded in response. Liana thought for a moment. Gu Mingming had mentioned that it would be better if she added a reason when she said she loved him. So she frowned, rolled her eyes and thought for a moment before saying, "Because you received the title of the strongest warrior in the tribe today, so I love you." Nelson nodded his head stiffly and said, Next year. I will try to get first again next year." "Tisk, I told you not to move." Liana roared. Nelson immediately froze as if his acupoints had been pressed. Not moving, not moving." Liana then nodded her head in satisfaction, then said, "Now I am going to kiss you." "Ah." Nelson's eyes were filled with worry. Liana was too strange today. Although he hoped that Liana would like him a little more even in his dreams, he could not adapt to her sudden passion. "What ah? You are my male, can't I kiss you?" Liana glared at him, seemingly displeased. No. I can kiss you, of course I can kiss you." Just now, the warrior who did not even take half a step back in the face of a hungry tiger became a Hello Kitty in front of his own female. Hearing Nelson's words, Liana heaved a sigh of relief and said, Then listen carefully. I am going to kiss you now, and I want to kiss you 3 times. All right." Liana pressed Nelson down and kissed him 3 times, then nodded her head in satisfaction and said, "I want to kiss you 3 times tomorrow and the day after. You have to automatically appear in front of me every day, do you hear me?" Nelson's face was extremely red, not from shyness, but from an indescribable agitation and excitement. He could not explain what was going on, just that his heart was pounding and his mind was blank. "Tsk, did you hear me?" Liana urged. Nelson nodded his head blankly and said, I heard you. Yes." Liana let go of Nelson's hand in satisfaction. She then dusted off her claws and stood up from Nelson's body. Gu Mingming could not help but want to clap for Liana. "Sister, you are so domineering and mighty." It turns out that he didn't go all out when he was fighting Maya by the stream that day. The barbaric version of My Barbarian Girlfriend. Tsk, Dodo Salonghe. Leah placed one arm on Elvis's shoulder and played with Gu Mingming's fingers with the other. He looked at the crowd casually and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear, "Should we take this chance to knock him down a peg?" Gu Mingming followed Lee's gaze and looked down. Among the orcs, there was a male with fiery red hair who was staring coldly at Liana and Nelson. She chuckled and raised her voice saying, "Warriors, you don't have to be so envious. As long as you work hard to improve your strength and display your best side in front of the female, I believe that the one you admire will definitely be able to see it. But there is one thing I need to make clear. That is, in the Saint Nazir tribe, I will definitely not allow anyone to frame the first partner and shake the unity of the tribe. Once I find out that someone has any thoughts that he should not have or coveted a position that he should not have, I will not let him off easily, understand?" Aside from the topic, Gu Mingming did not interfere in this matter because it was someone else's business. The importance of the first partner's authority had been mentioned previously when Leah and Elvis were putting on an act to deceive Cole. Once another partner used the female's love to overthrow the first partner, countless others would follow suit, especially in a messenger tribe like Saint Nazir. If such a thing happened, it would definitely have a butterfly effect on the beast world, so Gu Mingming had to interfere. Chapter 1166. The sacrificial ceremony was long and boring. Gu Mingming lost interest after watching for a while. She might as well let Elvis bring her back to the cave for an afternoon nap, and come out in the evening for the night campfire party. Due to the change of the first beauty of the tribe and the first beauty of the beast world, the seats on either side of Gu Mingming's campfire naturally became Liana's and Paige's seats, while Mandy sat beside Paige, which was considered a seat closer to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming was originally worried that Mandy would feel uncomfortable after falling from the position of the beast world's first beauty, but, Mandy adopted a little eagle owl from Becky's family. She said that as long as the little guy successfully evolved, even if it was only a half-orc, she would mate with it. If the evolution failed, then it would stay by her side as a pet beast. Hence, Gu Mingming's heart was in a mess and she felt like she was square. In the future, he might not be able to look Mandy in the eye. Child foster husband. What a perverted and weird auntie. You don't have to be so surprised. Leah waved his tail and tore off a piece of freshly roasted meat, sending it to Gu Mingming's mouth. If it wasn't for you protecting them so tightly, Huda and his brothers would have been snatched away to be reared the moment they appeared. Gu Mingming stared at Leah in disbelief with her beautiful eyes, then at Elvis. Elvis shrugged and said, "The females among the stray beasts do not receive such treatment. Huda and his brothers are the first batch of cubs in St. Nazaire." In other words, he didn't know the market rate either. Leah chuckled. Let's not talk about the others, but Sandy already had designs on the 4 little ones. In the end, before she could even open her mouth, you killed her with the word mother-in-law. That's why she didn't bring it up. Huh. Gu Mingming was even more shocked. Seeing her shocked expression, Leah could not help but feel amused. How could someone be so cute? I really want to take a bite and taste what she is made of. Pinching Gu Mingming's little face, Leah said, Bode told me Sandy said she wanted to raise Huda. But that was only in the beginning. Later on, I gave up on the idea. Gu Mingming felt like she was in a mess. Luckily Sandy was still upright. Or else? Thinking about how many times he had left the 4 little ones to Sandy to take care of. It was like pushing children into a fire pit. Fortunately, the fire pit had a conscience. Otherwise this kid. Oh my, just thinking about it gave me goosebumps. Not only that, Leah smiled wickedly, like a snake tempting Eve to eat an apple. He said seductively, Sandy still wants to gift 1 or 2 of the 3 Joseph brothers to you. What? Gu Mingming felt that she had used up all the exclamation marks in her life today. Quick, bring me my quick-acting heart reliever. Gu Mingming held onto her chest, looking like she could not take it anymore. Leah smiled brightly, pinching Gu Mingming's little face and shaking it left and right, saying, Elvis and I have already blocked it for you, so you can save on your quick-acting heart reliever pill. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Gu Mingming heaved a sigh of relief. Leah replied, Aren't you going to ask me how I blocked it? Gu Mingming looked up. How? Leah smiled ambiguously and said, I told her if she dares to stuff love rivals into my house, I will castrate all the males in her family, including the 3 Joseph brothers. Gu Mingming hugged her shoulders and exclaimed, Your jealousy is too strong. Chapter 1167. Gu Mingming hugged Lee's neck and kissed him, saying, I don't blame you, you care about me. Why would I blame you? But can you be gentler in the future? Sandy is timid, don't scare her. She's timid? Haha. Leah laughed coldly, saying, I think she has a lot of guts. Other than Sandy, there's probably no one else in the beast world who dares to force her way in to fight for the love of Elvis and me. Gu Mingming chuckled, thinking about it. Other than Sandy, no one else would dare to be so brazen in front of Elvis and Leah. Ha, I remember. She scolded you and Elvis before. Gu Mingming chuckled. Lee's eyes drooped, saying, Yet only 2 people have scolded me like this in my life. One is you, the other is her. You scolded me. I admit defeat. Who asked me to like you? But she scolded me. After scolding me, I still have to thank her gratefully. TSK. Why do I feel so cheap? Gu Mingming knew that Leah was referring to the time before they became partners, when she did not allow him to return to the cave. Sandy knew that Gu Mingming was in a bad mood, so she came to visit her, then saw Leah lying on a tree at the edge of the territory, scolded him, and finally said, You deserve it. Then after entering the cave, put in all sorts of good words for Elvis and Leah in front of her. Elvis tightened his grip on Gu Mingming, then looked at Leah and said, You were only scolded. I was pointed at my nose and scolded. She even flashed her claws in front of me. I've never been so useless in my life, being suppressed by a female until I was helpless. Gu Mingming was stunned for 2 seconds. Then she remembered that Elvis and Leah were not talking about the same thing. He should be talking about the time Cole cast a bewitching spell on Sandy, causing her to be confused and treat Cole as her partner, thinking that Elvis was covering up for Cole. So she pointed at his nose and scolded him. Sandy was tricked by Cole that time. It wasn't intentional. Moreover, she did it to protect me. Hubby, don't hold a grudge. Elvis lowered his head and kissed Gu Mingming's little face. I endured it because I knew she was protecting you. Otherwise, I would have cut out her gallbladder. and given it to you to go with your wine. Gu Mingming gave a look of disdain. Elvis squeezed Gu Mingming's little hand and said, "Wolves are very vengeful animals. So if one day she doesn't matter to you anymore, remember to tell me. I have to get back at her." Gu Mingming smiled and hugged Elvis's waist. She placed her little face on Elvis's chest, feeling extremely blissful. She understood Elvis's words. Elvis was saying, "Sandy is someone you care about, so no matter what she does, I will endure it. Love me, love my dog." That was probably it. But thinking about Sandy, that little bear bun, who was usually so cowardly, actually dared to show his claws in front of Elvis and Cole that time. It was as if he had to risk his entire family's lives to avenge her. Silly girl. How could Gu Mingming not care about such a best friend? The atmosphere was just right. An eagle owl flew over at a low altitude and stopped in front of Gu Mingming. He bowed and said, "Great messenger, the monkey from the previous time is here again." Monkey? Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment, unable to recall who it was. But Leah held onto Gu Mingming's little hand and smiled. "Let him in. I want to see what kind of answer he has prepared." Aside from the topic. Chapter 1168. The eagle owl glanced at Gu Mingming. Seeing that Gu Mingming did not object, he then spread his wings and flew off. Not long after, the eagle owl brought Joshua back. Gu Mingming then remembered that this was Frank's witch doctor, a first-level orc from the ape tribe, who wanted to join the tribe before winter. Gu Mingming remembered that Leah had patted something on his shoulder, and said that if he could find all the ingredients, he would allow him to join Saint Nazir as a witch doctor. Gu Mingming had asked Leah what he had patted on his shoulder, and Leah had only said mysteriously that he would not let someone who coveted Gu Mingming wander around Saint Nazir. But he did not tell Gu Mingming what exactly he had patted on his shoulder. After knowing about Maya's situation, Gu Mingming had placed all her attention on Maya. Moreover, Leah had been drunk for the entire winter, so Gu Mingming had forgotten about this matter. Now that Joshua was standing in front of Gu Mingming again, Gu Mingming was suddenly a little curious. Joshua spread out a piece of beast skin. There were 4 small pieces of beast skin wrapped in it. He opened them one by one and showed them to Leah. "Yellow roots, chili, snake scales, and salt crystals. I have found all 4 ingredients that you patted on my shoulder." Leah held his cheek and pinched the item that Joshua presented with his index finger. He smiled nonchalantly. "This item is only half correct." "Impossible," Joshua said with certainty. "Mighty Leah, you are the favored son of the deity. You cannot deny it." Leah chuckled in an evil and arrogant manner. "If I deny it, what can you do to me?" Joshua clenched his fists tightly and could not say a word. He was just a first-level orc. What could he do to him? Back then, when he and Elvis fought for territory alone, even Franks could not stop them, and allowed them to tear off a large piece of the tribe's territory. Now, not only had Leah leveled up to a 4th-level orc, he was also the male of the messenger of the beast deity. What could an orc like him, who was stuck at the 1st level, do to him? There was nothing he could do. There was nothing he could do. Leah swayed his tail and continued. "But my Mingming still cherishes this face of mine, so I have to be careful when I throw it." Joshua lifted his head and looked at Leah with an urgent gaze. Leah picked up the pepper and said, "Although the quality is not as good as the ones I picked, at least the species is correct. So I'll give you a pass for these too." With that, he used his finger to pick up the salt crystal and chuckled. "This salt crystal, you stole it from the salt lake in Saint Nazir, didn't you?" Joshua lowered his head in embarrassment. The Beast World Lord took things by force. Strength was everything. If it was a robbery, then it was justified. But stealing was a very dishonorable thing to do. But the truth was, this piece of salt crystal was indeed stolen by him when the people of Saint Nazir were busy preparing food for the winter. Joshua nodded with much difficulty. "Yes." Leah smiled as he placed the salt crystals down, then said, "I did pat salt on your shoulder, but it's not lake salt, it's sea salt ground from sea salt crystals. You represented Frankston to collect water, so you should know that Saint Nazir once had a mermaid, right? Because of that fish, the well had almost been destroyed. As a witch doctor, Joshua was naturally aware of it. Chapter 1169. Not long after, Leah retrieved the salt crystals that Fei Rui had left behind from the cave. As there was only one piece of sea salt, and it was definitely not enough to marinate meat, Leah had not used it much. He only used it occasionally when cooking fish in the cave. He scraped off a little with his fingernail and showed it to Joshua. Joshua carefully compared it to the lake salt he brought with him. Be it the color, the size of the particles, or even the color and smell, they were different to a certain extent. Joshua hung his head and said dejectedly, I will make a trip to the seaside and retrieve the sea salt from the mermaid tribe. Please give me another chance. Leah shook his head and said, the sea salt is not the key is this. Leah pinched that piece of snake scale through the beast's skin and clicked his tongue. What I gave you was a deity's punishment scale that was strengthened by the beast king's fury. You actually used a wild beast snake scale to brush me off? No matter how ignorant you are, you can't pass off tree bark as a lingji, right? Joshua looked at Leah in shock. A deity's punishment scale enhanced by the beast king's fury? He understood the deity's punishment scale. It meant that males who did something wrong would kneel on the platform of the deity's punishment for 3 days and 3 nights. If they could not endure it, it meant that the beast deity was unwilling to forgive them. Such people would be punished by the tribe's witch doctor. They would peel off their skin and make it into a flag to be placed on the highest mountain peak of the tribe, to express their repentance to the beast deity. But the beast king's fury, that was something that only existed in legends. The beast king was the beast deity's most beloved child. He was bestowed with the power of a demigod by the beast deity, and could command the entire tribe. Any disobedience was equivalent to offending the deity, and it was an unforgivable sin. The current beast king was Gu Mengmeng, but she was not from the snake tribe. Wait a minute. So the scale on his shoulder was the deity's punishment personally executed by the mighty Snake King Valley when he was still alive? After Joshua understood, he immediately lowered his body. Even if he had to dive into the sea to search for salt crystals, he was willing to try. Even if he could not swim, he would still be able to think of a way. But that mighty one was already dead, and he would never be able to obtain another deity's punishment scale enhanced by the Beast King's fury. Gu Mingming tugged at Li's beast skin skirt and asked, the scale you are talking about, could it be Ellie? Leah nodded. It's her scales. I went back to pick it up when you were unconscious. Gu Mingming felt slightly disgusted and asked, why did you pick it up? Leah said as if he was intentionally teasing Gu Mingming. Didn't you say that her snake skin was smooth and felt good? I was thinking of picking them up piece by piece to see if I could piece them together and give them to you. Gu Mingming stiffened her neck and said, no, disgusting. Throw it away quickly. Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little nose and shook it lightly. He smiled. Silly girl, you already have snake skin on your body. Why would you still want his inferior snake skin? I snatched it back because it's a rare medicinal herb that can save my life at a critical moment. Gu Mingming looked at Leah doubtfully, with an expression that said, you're bluffing me. Leah held Gu Mingming's little face and kissed it. Don't worry, I will keep it at a safe place and won't let you see it. Don't make me throw it away, alright? Up to you. Gu Mingming thought that Leah naturally had his reasons as he was a witch doctor. It would be fine as long as he was not an eyesore in front of her. Chapter 1170. Leah glanced sideways with a, you haven't left yet? He looked at Joshua and paused for 2 seconds. Then he suddenly smiled. Releasing Gu Mingming's hand, he straightened his body and kept his joking expression. His smile instantly turned into a refined and calm one, displaying the modesty and politeness of the great witch doctor of Saint Nazir. He asked, tell me, what kind of sacred item is it that has the same value as the deity's punishment scale that is strengthened by the Beast King's fury? Joshua wanted to look straight at Leah, but Li's aura was too strong and the pressure was too heavy. He could not even hold on for a second before he gave up. He lowered his head, clenched his fist and frowned. The heart of the desert. The moment he said those 4 words, Joshua could clearly feel the change in the atmosphere around him. And this change originated from the three people in front of him. Gu Mingming and Leah exchanged glances and the corners of their lips curled up in a mocking smile. Lee's prediction was really accurate. Cole had indeed used an entire winter to set up a trap. But he clearly knew that Gu Mingming already knew Maya's identity. So the information he told Maya was most likely a smokescreen. But given Lee's personality, he would definitely have thought of the same thing, so it was highly possible that he did the exact opposite. But he still sent the second option outside of Mota Mountains. Ha! A game between two foxes. Resting her chin on her palm, Gu Mingming finally looked straight at Joshua. A faint smile hung on her lips but did not reach her eyes. Gu Mingming said softly, "I once promised that the person who found the 7 treasures could fulfill any wish. You already have the heart of the desert. Isn't it a little too wasteful to exchange it for a spot to enter St. Nazir?" Just hearing Gu Mingming's voice made Joshua's heart beat extremely fast. All the blood in his body surged and his palms were covered in sweat. Pinching his fingers, Joshua said, "I don't have the heart of the desert, I only have news about it. So I don't dare to ask for a wish. As long as I can use it to replace the scale in Sir Lee's question, I will be satisfied." Gu Mingming's lips twitched. "You are not greedy." Gu Mingming glanced sideways at Leah and asked with a smile, "You were the one who came up with the question. You decide, can we change it?" Leah hooked his arm around Gu Mingming's arm naughtily and rested his chin on Gu Mingming's smooth shoulder. "How would I have any ideas in front of you? Isn't it just whatever you say?" Gu Mingming smiled lazily. She poked Lee's brows and pushed him away from her shoulder. Then, she wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and gestured for him to leave. Elvis carried Gu Mingming and stood up, giving Oratin and Burrito a look. The two of them nodded in tacit understanding and stayed behind to host the night campfire party, while Elvis and Leah brought Gu Mingming away. When they passed by Joshua, Gu Mingming said softly, "Let's talk somewhere else." Yes. Joshua didn't dare to raise his head. He felt like his heart was beating too fast. The person he had been dreaming about was just inches away from him, but he didn't even have the courage to lift his head to look at her. He could only follow her silently. "We're not going back to the cave, we're going to Lee's place." Perhaps it was because she had developed territorial awareness after staying in the beast world for a long time. Or maybe it was because her sense of smell had become too sensitive after inheriting Snake's ability. Anyway, she didn't like the smell of strangers staying at her place now, especially those who had ulterior motives and were involved with Cole. Aside from the topic, that's the end of today's update, babes. See you tomorrow. Chapter 1171. Leah and Elvis didn't have any objections. After all, Lee's place used to be used for meetings. It was just that after Gu Mingming appeared, they had gotten used to surrounding her and never returned. However, Lee's place was rather special. Even if Leah no longer stayed here, no one in the tribe dared to lay their hands on this place, so it had always been left unused. Gu Mingming sat at the entrance of Lee's cave. She had no intention of entering. Even if Leah no longer stayed here, she didn't like anyone related to Cole entering. Elvis and Leah sat beside Gu Mingming. They remained silent and let her make the decision. Gu Mingming leaned back in Elvis's arms. She looked at Joshua. "All right, there's no one else here. You can speak now." Joshua lowered his head. "Cole was the one who told me about the heart of the desert." Gu Mingming raised her brows. She didn't expect Joshua to tell her so directly. After all, Fei Rui had come here because of Cole's scheme. Fei Rui still didn't know that it was Cole who had the information about the kiss of the ocean. After that, Cole didn't appear personally at the soul of the forest. Instead, he instructed Dora to lead Leonard by the nose. This time, he actually appeared personally to tell Joshua about the heart of the desert. It seemed like Lee's guess was right. It was too hasty for Cole to use the entire winter to set up a plan. Was that why he was so perfunctory? Or since she already knew it was him, why not just hide it? Then why did she still need to borrow Joshua's words? Couldn't he just tell her directly? Joshua clenched his fists. "I want to join St. Nazir, because I like the great messenger. I want to woo her. So, I cannot lie to you. I cannot hide anything. Even if I am standing in front of you right now, We still seem to be separated by a galaxy. I don't want to use lies to widen this galaxy. So, I will tell you everything I know honestly. I will use this method to prove my loyalty to you." Upon hearing Joshua's words, Gu Mingming instinctively glanced at Leah. Then she asked Joshua with a chuckle, "Did Cole teach you to say that?" Joshua shook his head and said, "I told him that I would tell you the truth. He didn't say anything." Leah sighed and acted pitiful in front of Gu Mingming, as if he was begging for mercy. "I know I was wrong to hide many things from you in the past, but it has already been more than 2 years and you still want to bring up the past?" Gu Mingming raised her head and said, "Why? You can't flip it?" Leah tapped Gu Mingming's little nose helplessly and indulgently. Yes, you are my little princess. How can I reject anything you want?" Gu Mingming chuckled and ignored Lee's flirting. She looked at Joshua and said, "All right, I got it. Go on. How much do you know about the heart of the desert? Or rather, how much did Cole tell you?" Joshua nodded and replied, "The heart of the desert is in the Mecca Desert, guarded by a rank 5 giant scorpion. It was dry all year round, and not even a blade of grass grew there. It was a vast sea of sand. Without someone familiar with the terrain to lead the way, it was basically impossible to get out after entering. So, Chapter 1172. Joshua shook his head and said, "It's not me. I really want to request to go with you, but I know that with my abilities as a first-level beast, I will only be a burden. So I will not trouble the great messenger. I will stay in St. Nazir as the witch doctor when you and Sir Leah are not around to guard your tribe and wait for your return." Gu Mingming thought that there were many places she had to visit in a year. With Hutta and Jiaoyu and Sauter, she had to visit her 2 sons and Sandy every year. Zacharias had Qixin and Kanwu, so she had to take some time out every year to visit them and Natalie. As the saintess of the Snake King Valley, even if she did not have to return every year, she had to go back occasionally to show her face and let everyone know that she was still alive and remembered the Snake King Valley. This was to deter people from sneaking into the Snake King Valley during the winter to plot against them. Therefore, based on this calculation, there was not much time that she could stay in St. Nazir in a year. There were 16 valued females in St. Nazir, and now there were 8 more cubs. They really needed a witch doctor. But could anyone who had ties with Cole be trusted? "All right, from today onwards, you are the witch doctor of St. Nazir." Leah hugged Gu Mingming's shoulders and agreed readily. "Leah." Gu Mingming frowned. She did not blame him for making the decision on his own, but she did not trust the person Cole had sent over. Leah hooked Gu Mingming's little chin and smiled as if he was asking for her affection. "With someone holding the title of St. Nazir's witch doctor, I can be free and focus on taking care of you. Isn't that good, my queen?" But Gu Mingming's heart itched. She could never be immune to Lee's teasing. Leah pecked her lips lightly and said, "This fellow wants to cross the Milky Way to come to your side. He will not do something so foolish as to drown himself halfway. If he really does it, don't worry, Elvis and I have ways to make him beg for death." Gu Mingming thought to herself, if Cole really made use of Joshua to bring disaster to St. Nazir, not to mention torturing Joshua, even torturing Cole would be useless. As if he had seen through Gu Mingming's thoughts, Leah gently bit her left earlobe and said, "In the past, in order to compete with Cole, I placed great importance on St. Nazir. Because of this, I almost lost you. But now St. Nazir is nothing in my eyes." "Huh? Do you think Cole still has the interest to destroy a tribe that I don't even care about?" Gu Mingming thought about it. If there was no goalkeeper, would there still be the desire to shoot? He chuckled and said, "I understand. I'll listen to you." "Good girl," Leah praised Gu Mingming's forehead, before whispering into her ear, "From today onwards, I'm no longer the witch doctor of St. Nazir, but the 9th Highness who belongs to you alone." Leah nodded. Gu Mingming chuckled. She wrapped her arms around Lee's neck and kissed his face. "Long live your highness." The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Leah said, "So sensible." Gu Mingming poked Lee's chest before returning to her original position. She kept her playful smile and looked back at Joshua. "Witch doctor, Can you tell me now? Who is the person who can lead the way? Chapter 1173. Her smile was like a flower and her watery face attracted his attention, making him even more determined to cross the Milky Way. He was so engrossed in his thoughts that when he heard Gu Mingming calling him, he was dazed for a moment. After being stunned for a moment, he finally regained his senses and answered, Oratin. Oratin. Gu Mingming was surprised by this answer. That foodie could not see anything else other than food. Elvis and Leah were also familiar with him. If he was not someone they could trust, Elvis and Leah would never allow him to hang around Gu Mingming, not to mention letting him become the messenger's guard. Initially, Elvis had his eyes on Oratin because he had no worries and no weaknesses. Cole or anyone else would not be able to threaten him with Gu Mingming's methods. If Cole could pull Oratin over to his side. Unless Cole was good at cooking and could cook better food than Leah. But this possibility was almost zero, because Gu Mingming clearly knew that Cole still maintained his habit of eating raw meat to prevent the wildness in him from degenerating. He did not cook at all. Could it be a plan to sow discord between them? Was he trying to plot against everyone around Gu Mingming until they were all disloyal? Gu Mingming squinted her eyes, as if she was scrutinizing Joshua. Joshua clenched his fists and continued, There's a Fedatan city in the Mecca Desert. The city master there, Bayan, is the guardian of the heart of the desert. And Oratin was born in that Fedatan city. Cole told you all these too? Gu Mingming asked. Joshua nodded his head honestly, not daring to hide anything. Is there anything else? Gu Mingming asked nonchalantly. Joshua shook his head and said, He only told me this much. Gu Mingming stretched lazily, then leaned into Elvis's arms and said, You should be very familiar with the territory of Saint Nazir. Find a place to settle down. Yes, thank you great messenger for fulfilling my wish. The paper bag secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He finally got closer to Gu Mingming. Even if it was just a little bit closer, it was enough to comfort him. Elvis carried Gu Mingming and left. Leah swayed his tail and said to Joshua, Then I'll have to trouble the witch doctor for the tribe in the future. Yes. Joshua was very respectful towards Leah. One reason was because he was Gu Mingming's most favored partner. If he wanted to become Gu Mingming's partner in the future, it would not be wrong to build a good relationship with this Sir Leah. Secondly, Leah did have outstanding knowledge and abilities in the field of witch doctors. As a witch doctor as well, Joshua naturally respected him. Leah could not be bothered to stand on ceremony with Joshua. He wagged his tail and chased after Gu Mingming seductively. They chatted and laughed as they returned to their cave. After returning to the cave, Gu Mingming looked at Elvis and asked, Hubby, you have been silent the entire way, what's wrong? Is there something on your mind? Elvis frowned and nodded. Then he looked at Leah with a deep gaze. Gu Mingming chuckled. Why? He's been acting like a drunkard for the whole winter. Are you not used to it when he suddenly stops? Chapter 1174. Gu Mingming smiled and wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck. What, do you want to collectively retire? Elvis sighed softly and hugged Gu Mingming's waist. I just want to be like him, to only keep this identity and nothing else. Gu Mingming leaned against Elvis's chest. Let's take it slow. If I change the witch doctor and tribe leader at the same time, others will think that I am abandoning Saint Nazir. I don't care what others think. Elvis caressed Gu Mingming's hair. Gu Mingming replied, I know, but Saint Nazir was founded by you and Elvis after all. I still hope that my messenger's tribe is Saint Nazir and not Sauter. Elvis did not insist and only replied with one word. After successfully appeasing Elvis, Gu Mingming then turned to look at Leah. There is one more thing that I have been keeping in my heart for the entire afternoon. Lee's lips curled. Maya's stomach? Gu Mingming nodded. You smelled it too, right? The smell on her body. It's coal. Leah continued Gu Mingming's sentence. Elvis sneered and said, Cole is quite daring to come to Saint Nazir to spend the winter. Gu Mingming stroked Lee's tail. It's dark under the lights. The more dangerous a place is, the safer it is. No matter how many enemies he has, who would have thought that he would be so daring to openly move into Saint Nazaire, especially when all three of us are in Saint Nazaire? Yeah, not only did he stay, he even impregnated Maya. Ha, he is really capable. Li's words were obviously sarcastic. Gu Mingming thought for a while. Could it be because the 16 valued females made things difficult for Maya before winter, so Cole is using this method to ensure Maya's safety? Leah chuckled. Do you think Cole is someone who would worry for others? Moreover, Maya does not have a snow fox among her partners. This little cub will be exposed the moment it is born, unless he did not want this little cub to be born at all. Gu Mingming frowned. It can't be? Even a vicious tiger will not eat its cubs. Leah looked at Elvis meaningfully but did not say a word. Gu Mingming's heart skipped a beat. That's right. Wasn't it their biological father who tortured Elvis and his brothers back then? The theory that even a vicious tiger would not eat its cubs did not seem to work in the beast world. All right, since Maya is one of his people, it's not up to us to worry about her life or death. Xiaoming has been tired for the whole day. Boil some water for her to bathe, and let her rest early. Elvis himself felt that his parentage was no longer a big deal. No matter how deeply he was hurt in the past, it had already become an old scar. Although it was a little ugly, it no longer hurt. But every time Gu Mingming mentioned this, she would feel upset. So Elvis also started to avoid this topic on purpose, unwilling to make Gu Mingming upset. Leah pulled back his tail from Gu Mingming's arms and waved it. All right, I'll go and boil the water. Then let her play with your tail for a while. She won't feel comfortable if she doesn't have something furry in her arms. Elvis ignored Leah and just placed his large tail into Gu Mingming's arms. Gu Mingming was fearless. She held it in her arms and stroked it to her heart's content. So, you intend to find the heart of the desert first? Elvis asked. Chapter 1175. I have no objections, I will listen to you. Gu Mingming chuckled in Elvis's arms. We definitely cannot bring little shit along when we go to the Mecca desert. Ha, I don't know how he is going to mess with me. Elvis played with Gu Mingming's little hand. Why don't I fight with him the moment he arrives? We can leave after he is satisfied. Then he won't mess around anymore. Gu Mingming shook her head. I don't think so. Based on Wabiai's ability to take a beating, only Elvis could give him a good thrashing. Even the current Gu Mingming would find it difficult to make Wabiai fight with all his might, because of the difference in their physiques, not to mention Elvis, who was just a little wolf in his eyes. The next morning, Oriton carried his hunted prey over to share a meal. After enduring for an entire winter, he was already craving for food. If not for the fact that he had eaten quite a lot of roasted meat at the night campfire party, he would have charged into Elvis's cave and kidnapped Gu Mingming to force Leah to cook for him. Leah took the ingredients Oriton brought over and started preparing to cook. Meanwhile, Gu Mingming called Oriton, who was circling the pot, over. Based on the premise that Leah would definitely cut off his meals if Gu Mingming did not agree, and that he could not defeat Gu Mingming's family of 3, Oriton obediently sat diagonally across from Gu Mingming with a poker face. His eyes were constantly attracted by the huge stone pot beside Li's hand, but he tried his best to sit upright and expressionless. How much do you know about the Mecca desert? Gu Mingming went straight to the point. Oriton was clearly taken aback. His face was expressionless and he did not even frown. However, Gu Mingming noticed that his pupils dilated in that instant. After pausing for about 5 seconds, Oriton finally replied, I was born there and am quite familiar with it. What about Bayan? Do you know him? Gu Mingming continued asking. Oriton nodded. After thinking for a while, he shook his head. Everyone in the Mecca desert knows about Bayan, but no one has seen him before. He is more like a legendary character. What do you mean? Gu Mingming pressed. Oriton glanced at Li's pot. The meat had just been placed in the pot, and would need some time before it could be eaten. This period of time should be sufficient for him to tell Gu Mingming stories. With that thought, Oriton retracted his gaze from Li's pot, and focused on Gu Mingming. He said, Bayan was one of the partners of the previous messenger of the beast deity, but for some unknown reason, He was abandoned and became a stray beast. This was something that happened more than 1,000 years ago. It was said that he was still alive, but no one had seen him. Just like Snake in the past, he was not in the beast world, but everyone in the beast world knew about him. Wang Xiaoxin's partner. Gu Mingming instinctively said the name of the previous messenger of the beast deity. The main thing was that they came from the same era and knew each other very well. She and Wang Xiaoxin might have even passed each other on the streets before. She really could not do things like the people in the beast world and respectfully greet the messenger of the beast deity, or even worship something like 300 poems of the Tang dynasty. Chapter 1176. Damn it! Gu Mingming felt as though 10,000 beasts were galloping in her heart. If it was said that Sandy and Liana were females in the beast world, and were used to keeping a cub as a partner, then Wang Xiaoxin was a real modern person, and she was highly educated. How could she do something so immoral? Gu Mingming felt that she could not face Snake anymore. If she had known earlier, she would not have told Snake, "Your mother is a joker back at the Snake King Valley." She should have said, "Your mother is a pervert. Do you know that?" Gu Mingming had goosebumps all over her body, her face full of disgust. He sighed and relayed Joshua's words to Oraton without hiding anything. After she finished, she asked, "So, I want to make a trip to Fedatin City in the Mecca Desert. Can you lead the way for me?" Oraton turned to look at Leah, then at Elvis. Then he nodded his head seriously and said, "All right, I will accompany you." After Oraton agreed, Leah then carried the stone pot to the table and scooped a bowl of meat for Oraton with a grin. "Here, you guys eat first. I will set up another pot to stew more." Oraton nodded. This was the first time Leah had treated Oraton so well that Oraton was a little overwhelmed by the favor. Gu Mingming chuckled. She knew that Oraton admired Elvis and even treated him as his life goal, following his way of living. That was also why he was willing to join Saint Nazir. But it started with admiration and ended with the stove. In the end, the one who truly conquered Oraton was not herself, the messenger of the beast deity, nor was it Elvis, the spiritual role model, but Lee's big pot. Gu Mingming knew that Fedatin City might not be a hometown with good memories for Oraton, because when he heard the words Mecca Desert, he was obviously taken aback for a moment. That was not an expression that one would have for a hometown that was filled with nostalgia. But he was still willing to accompany her, probably because he wanted to learn more from Elvis and follow Leah to have meat to eat. As expected, to conquer a male, one must first conquer his stomach. After Oraton finished his third bowl of meat, his craving for food for the entire winter was finally alleviated. He felt more relaxed and finally had the mood to say to Gu Mingming, "But you have to be mentally prepared. Bayan has been hiding even deeper than Snake all these years. It's not easy to find him." Gu Mingming thought about it. If he was Wang Xiaoxin's partner, then he should have met whales before. Then, having inherited the memories from Snake, she should have some impression of Bayan. But why was there no impression at all? That was strange. Unless Wang Xiaoxin had abandoned Higan before she mated with whales. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for her to have no impression of him. However, Gu Mingming had no interest in guessing the emotional entanglements from 1,000 years ago. After all, Wang Xiaoxin was half a mother-in-law to her. She was already involved in the relationship between Natalie and Peter, so there was no point in gossiping about the other in-laws. Chapter 1177. I advise you not to underestimate your enemy. Oraton poured a bucket of cold water on Gu Mingming. Although you have the powers of a beast king, the desert is not like this place. There are quicksand whirlpools everywhere. If you miss your step, you may be buried in the sand and not even your bones will be left. Meanwhile, the scorpion can move freely under the sea of sand, so even if you have the powers of a beast king, you may not be able to take advantage of that 1,000-year-old monster. Damn it, one really could not compare one's age in this beast world. How could they be thousands of years old at the drop of a hat? Despite her complaints, Gu Mingming still nodded. All right, I understand. Gu Mingming's appetite was limited. Elvis and Leah were counting on Oriton to lead the way for Gu Mingming, so they naturally would not snatch his food. So other than the small bowl that Gu Mingming ate, the rest of the food in the 2 pots went into Oriton's stomach. Oriton suddenly felt that it was not a big deal to return to that place. As long as there was meat to eat, it did not matter where he went. After breakfast, Elvis carried Gu Mingming to the empty ground beside the cave to bask in the sun. Gu Mingming leaned lazily in his arms, squinting her eyes like a coquettish kitten. Why don't you meet the beast deity before Wabi-I arrives? On one hand, you can ask about the heart of the desert. On the other hand, you can meet that person in advance, so that Wabi-I won't pester you endlessly. Gu Mingming considered Elvis's suggestion, and felt that it was very reasonable. Because of Oakley's matter, she received fatherly care and warmth from the beast deity when her heart was heavy. She should not only look for the beast deity when she needed it, but she did not know why it had developed into a situation where she would not go to the beast deity for no reason. It seemed like she would only return home to show filial piety to her parents when she needed to collect money. Gu Mingming laughed softly and shook her head slowly. What are you laughing at? Elvis curled his lips and asked softly. Gu Mingming replied. I was reprimanded by my father the last time I went back. Beast deity. Elvis frowned. Another opponent he could not defeat or even defeat. He clearly knew that Xiao Ming had been wronged, but he did not even know how to find her to vent her anger. A deep sense of helplessness washed over him. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming and kissed her. Sorry you have been wronged. Gu Mingming smiled and shook her head. What's so bad about being scolded by my own father? There is a saying where we come from that goes, a dutiful son is born under the rod. Spare the rod and spoil the child, and a loving mother spoils the child. My father only said a few words, and that was already considered polite. I used to have a classmate who accepted a confession from a boy in her class in her 2nd year of high school. When her mother found out, she rushed to the school and slapped the boy in front of the whole class. She pulled the boy by his hair and brought him to the principal's office to transfer to another school. That night she left our city. She changed her phone number and all her contact methods. It was as if she had vanished from the face of the earth. That male didn't resist. Once again, Elvis felt that the males in that world were so useless. Chapter 1178. To Elvis, he could never understand what the males in that world were thinking. Since he did not like females, why would he go and provoke them? If he liked them, why would he bear to let her suffer like that? Sighing, Elvis didn't continue asking about Gu Mingming's classmate. He just hugged and kissed Gu Mingming. Then why didn't you tell me that you were reprimanded by the beast deity? Gu Mingming chuckled. Because father did not reprimand me too harshly. I just acted cute and got away with it. Why did I come back to complain about it when it was not painful? Tell me, what did the beast deity say about you? His precious baby, whom he could not bear to say a harsh word about, was scolded by others. Even if it was the beast deity, Elvis could not tolerate it. Although he could not do anything to the beast deity now, wouldn't he still die one day? When he died, he would return to the beast deity's embrace. By then, haha. Gu Mingming didn't know what Elvis was thinking. She repeated what the beast deity had said the other day about her being a daughter who had been married off. She had forgotten about her father after getting a husband. Although it was not serious, Elvis still kissed Gu Mingming with heartache. Can you negotiate with the beast deity to let me follow you the next time you meet him? If he is unhappy with you, he can vent it on me. I will let him hit and scold me as he pleases, alright? How can we be together when we are dreaming? Gu Mingming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. My father is a deity after all. He won't abuse me. Don't worry. Elvis didn't say anything. He just sighed. His heart was in his throat the moment Gu Mingming went to see the beast deity. Gu Mingming knew what Elvis was worried about. She caressed his face with her little hands. I will ask my father when I go over. If there is a way, I will bring you and Leah back to be his live-in son-in-law. All right, all right. Elvis placed his forehead gently on Gu Mingming's. He was full of indulgence. Leah came to Gu Mingming's side after greeting Oriton. He asked lazily, what do you plan to do with the one in Maya's stomach? That's right. The way to deal with that stomach had to be decided as soon as possible, so that Leah could make the necessary arrangements. Even though he was Cole's son, no matter how bad his parents were, the little boy who was not even the size of a soybean was innocent. Even the triads knew that one's wife and children should not be implicated. There was no reason for Gu Mingming to not tolerate Cole and Maya's children just because she hated them. But, if the biological parents wanted to kill their own children, Gu Mingming did not feel that she had the right and obligation to stop them. After all, if someone stood at the entrance of the obstetrics and gynecology department and preached that every life should be treated with kindness, to every patient who was about to undergo an abortion, they would probably be arrested by the Qingshan Mental Hospital. She didn't have the right to decide, but regardless of whether the child was born or not, she would be the one to clean up the mess in the end. This was so frustrating. What right did he have? She wasn't the one who got Maya pregnant. Gu Mingming frowned in disdain. Every time she felt that Cole was extremely disgusting and could not be any more disgusting, Cole would come up with a new trick. It was as though he was smiling at her and saying, Hey, are you looking down on me? I can be even more disgusting. Chapter 1179. Gu Mingming glanced sideways at Leah. What? Throw Maya into the well and drown her? Leah pinched Gu Mingming's little nose. You want to waste a well just for Maya? Aren't you being too wasteful, Mingming? Then what should I do? Gu Mingming asked. Leah smiled, a crafty glint in his eyes. He looked like a leisurely fox. Although he looked lazy and casual, he had already schemed against her from start to finish. Mingming, do you know when stray beasts are usually the most aggressive? Leah asked softly. Gu Mingming replied. Probably during the rainy season when winter is approaching. They snatch food quite fiercely. Leah nodded. What else? What else? Gu Mingming shook her head in confusion. And when winter has just ended? Leah chuckled. The females snatched back last year could not survive the winter. They either froze to death or starved to death, or became food for stray beasts. So after winter ends, stray beasts would attack tribes at all costs to snatch new females. In the past, they always chose to do so during beauty pageants, because the strongest warriors in the tribe would be escorting the tribe's #1 beauty to the pageant. So it was the easiest time to snatch the females. But ever since you reformed the beauty pageant system 2 years ago, this opportunity no longer existed. So last year, the stray beasts attacked the tribes the moment winter ended, catching all the tribes by surprise and snatching away many of their females. Gu Mingming listened for a long while before gradually understanding. You found someone to disguise as stray beasts to attack tribes and snatch Maya away? Gu Mingming asked. Leah shook his head. There's no need to disguise. Just ask the real stray beasts to come and snatch her away. Gu Mingming was confused. Cole is the leader of the stray beasts. Why would the stray beasts go against his wishes to snatch the person he planted? Leah coughed softly. Hiding his smile, he said, Have you forgotten that we still have a stray beast young master in our family? Gu Mingming was stunned for a moment. She widened her eyes. You mean Qixian? No way. I don't agree. I definitely cannot let Qixian have anything to do with Cole. Qixian is now in Zacharias, which borders the stray beast camp. If Cole wants to contact Qixian, it will be much more convenient than before. Leah explained slowly to Gu Mingming. So for this matter, we are mainly testing Qixuan's attitude. If Qixian is willing to help, it means that he is no longer under Cole's control. It's just that a bewitching spell cannot be undone for now, and we cannot kill Cole. But if he is still on Cole's side, then we don't have to look for the heart of the desert anymore. We can set off for Zacharias immediately, even if we have to tie him up. I will help you to tie your son up and not let Cole touch a single strand of his wolf hair. Gu Mingming was still very hesitant. Humans were always so contradictory. She wanted to know the outcome but was also afraid to know the outcome. Gu Mingming could still clearly remember the look of despair in Qixuan's eyes when she had cast a bewitching spell on him to make him forget Cole. She really didn't want Qixian to look at her like that ever again. I think Li's arrangement is right, Elvis agreed. Gu Mingming bit her lower lip. 2-1, they had won. All right, but we must not let Qixian get hurt because of this, Gu Mingming added. Chapter 1180. Gu Mingming sent an eagle owl to Zacharias to deliver the letter. This round trip would take 2 to 3 days. So Gu Mingming followed Elvis's instructions and made use of this time to look for the beast deity. By the time she woke up, Wabi should have arrived and the eagle owl she had sent to deliver the news should have also returned. This way, she could first settle Maya's matters before deciding whether to go to the Mota Mountains or the Mecca Desert first. Elvis placed Gu Mingming in the cave. Leah would change the beast's skin on her bed 3 times a day, so when she went to bed in the morning, afternoon and night, the bed skin would always have the smell of sunlight and a warm touch. Holding Gu Mingming's hand gently, Elvis kissed her forehead and said, "You must remember to ask if you can bring me along." Gu Mingming nodded and slowly closed her eyes. Layers of white fog blurred her vision. But Gu Mingming no longer felt uneasy and at a loss. Indeed, the beast deity was standing in the depths of the clouds, waiting for her anxiously. Gu Mingming smiled sweetly and pounced into the beast deity's arms. She called out softly, "Daddy, I am back to watch television with you." The beast deity opened his arms and hugged Gu Mingming gently. Then he patted Gu Mingming's head twice and said, "Good girl, welcome back." Gu Mingming held onto the beast deity's arm and looked up with a smile. "Daddy, can I bring my hubby back next time?" The beast deity was still smiling. With the kind of benevolence unique to deities, he nodded and said, "You can come here when your abilities reach the level of a beast king." Gu Mingming nodded and understood a little. She had met the beast deity for the first time after inheriting Snake's abilities. Snake was the only old friend she had seen here. The beast deity led Gu Mingming to sit on a wooden chair. Then he patted Gu Mingming's little hand and said, "But won't that little wolf go crazy when he watches television? What if there's some mosaic content?" Gu Mingming facepalmed. This was a serious problem. Elvis had a serious knot in his heart towards Snake. The last word Snake said to Elvis was so weak, and this word was like a nightmare in Elvis's heart. Whenever Gu Mingming made a slight mistake, he would recall Snake's words and expression at that time, and then he would blame himself endlessly. Even in his dreams he wanted to defeat Snake to break this curse and prove that he was not weak and could protect Gu Mingming. So, if Elvis were to see the contents of the television series, would he directly rush into the screen to compete with Snake? She had a premonition that Elvis would be even more excited when he saw Snake than when Wabi saw Snake. But Gu Mingming laughed softly. It seemed like she had to put love of the sky aside for now. Ling Spirit, Elvis Snake, Mo Clanstone Hao Dragon, Deity Hao Shenlong, he said, moo with this understanding. Gu Mingming felt that at least she had a clear sense of direction and did not need to be so conflicted anymore. She wrapped her arms around the beast deity's arm and asked, "I remember that the previous episode was about them sharing the same bed. Are you sure there won't be any scenes that need to be censored? This is a pure idol drama after all." The beast deity nodded solemnly and said, "Don't worry, I've seen the trailer. There's no need to censor anything." Gu Mingming smiled and gestured to the beast deity to start acting. Chapter 1181. The beast deity waved his hand, and the familiar screen appeared in front of Gu Mingming. The morning sunlight shone through the bright glass into the room. On the king-sized bed, Elvis was hugging Gu Mingming. His arm rested under her neck, then bent toward her, leaning over her shoulder. Snake could not sleep at all that night. This was the first time he was hugging Gu Mingming to sleep, and he could not suppress the excitement from night till dawn. In the beast world, because his body was too cold, he had to expose himself to the sunlight to let his body burn in pain before he could hold her in his arms for a short period of warmth. But now his body was as warm as hers. He could finally hold her in his arms without worrying that his coldness would make her feel uncomfortable. The corners of Snake's lips curled into a beautiful arc. He could not suppress the curve of his lips. Ever since this little thing returned to his side, Snake realized that the corners of his lips had gone out of his control. Regardless of whether it was going up or down, it was all due to Gu Mingming's actions. Another part of his body belonged to her. It felt so good. He raised his right hand gently to block the sunlight that landed on Gu Mingming's eyes. Seeing that her little face looked transparent under the morning sunlight, Snake's eyes were filled with unconcealable adoration and tenderness. Gu Mingming let out a soft sound. This was the prelude to waking up. Snake put down his hand gently and pinched Gu Mingming's face. He then leaned over and kissed her eyes. Darling, time to wake up. Gu Mingming was still drowsy and her mind was not very clear. She replied in a daze. Good morning. After saying that, she was stunned for 2 seconds. Then, she jumped up out of reflex and took a few steps back, falling onto the ground with a thud. Snake was caught off guard by Gu Mingming's actions. He did not know that Gu Mingming would suddenly break free after a gentle good morning. He could not stop her in time, and could only watch as Gu Mingming fell to the ground. Tumeng. Snake's heart tightened, and he immediately flipped over to carry Gu Mingming up from the ground. His heart ached as he looked at the dazed Gu Mingming. Unable to reprimand her, Snake could only feel his heart aching. He carefully checked Gu Mingming's body. Luckily, she had fallen backwards and only her buttocks were injured. However, her palms were slightly red from rubbing against the ground. Gu Mingming was in a daze for a long time before she realized. There's a guy beside me. And F***ck it hurts. She snapped out of her emotions and remembered that she was the one who let Snake in and agreed to let him sleep on the same bed as her. Initially, she was still nervous and uneasy as she guarded against him. But Snake was indeed very obedient. As she guarded against him, Gu Mingming fell asleep unknowingly. Gu Mingming despised herself in her heart. Luckily Snake was a gentleman, or else she would have been devoured by him for her carelessness last night. Just as she was about to say something, she realized from the corner of her eye that she had dropped the lamp at the head of the bed. Now the corpse was lying on the ground in 3 pieces. The base and the lamp were all separated. Senior, I broke your lamp. I'm sorry. How about deducting it from my salary? Snake frowned. Let's not care about the lamp first. You threw my girlfriend. How are you going to pay for this? Author's words. Chapter 1182. Gu Mingming blushed, and her heart was about to explode. She instinctively pulled back her hand and said, I didn't do it on purpose. I woke up to find a guy beside me. I was scared. But Snake did not let Gu Mingming pull her hand away from his palm. He moved her wrist around to make sure that she did not hurt her bones. Then he kissed it and said, I am your boyfriend and also your dog. Why are you afraid of me? She used to be afraid of snakes, but he was no longer a snake now. Snake was a little disappointed. He did not like her to be afraid of him. Gu Mingming cleared her throat and turned her face to the side. I am just not used to having someone beside me suddenly. Then next time, don't sleep on my bed and I won't fall. But Snake did not let Gu Mingming finish her sentence and interrupted her. I will hug you tighter next time and not let you fall from my arms. But you have to quickly get used to having me by your side, understand? MMM? Gu Mingming was stunned for a long time to digest Snake's words. Did he mean they were going to sleep together in the future? Gu Mingming looked up at Snake and said, No, you can't sleep on my bed every day. Snake smiled and nodded. All right, I will return to the master bedroom to sleep tonight. Gu Mingming was about to nod when Snake added, You will come with me. Gu Mingming's nodding froze on the spot. I am not going. You can go back to your own room to sleep. Snake narrowed his eyes and looked at Gu Mingming. So you want to sleep with me and not take responsibility? Gu Mingming stared at Snake with her beautiful eyes wide open. She was shocked. Snake lifted his chin and said, You and I, a man and a woman lying on the same bed for an entire night. Do you think anyone would believe that we are just chatting under the blankets? Gu Mingming felt that her tongue was tied. She had met a scammer, right? Right. Snake pulled Gu Mingming into his arms and said, I am a normal man with normal physiological needs. Because I cherish you. I will endure this desire before we get married. However, you have to give me the benefits that I deserve. Otherwise it would be too cruel, wouldn't it? Tumeng, The future that I look forward to is to see you and the sun every day when I open my eyes. Snake kissed Gu Mingming's forehead and said, satisfy me, all right? Actually, Snake had a backup key to every room. Even if he forced his way in, Gu Mingming did not have the ability to reject him. But he didn't do so. He chose to coax her and ask for her consent. He could have gotten what he wanted simply and crudely, but because he cared about her feelings, he chose to use a gentle method. Gu Mingming laughed softly. She felt that she might be the easiest girl to win over in this world. If you smile, it means you agree. You can't go back on your word, got it? Kissing Gu Mingming's head as a reward, Snake carried Gu Mingming to the washroom and placed her on the sink. Then he wet a towel and helped her wash her face. I can do it myself. Gu Mingming was not used to this kind of care. Chapter 1183. After washing up, Snake carried Gu Mingming to the dining room and placed her on the chair beside the dining table. Then he entered the open kitchen to prepare breakfast for her. Gu Mingming held her chin and tilted her head to look at how Snake was handling the kitchen with ease. She could not help but think, you and Sunshine are both here, so this is how it looks like. Yeah, so blissful. Blissful like a dream. Senior. Gu Mingming called out softly. Snake looked up and his gaze landed accurately on Gu Mingming's face. He smiled and asked, Gu Mingming smiled and said, dating you is too blissful. I feel like I don't have to do anything. When she signed that contract, Gu Mingming still felt that she had signed a contract to sell her body and would be exploited like a servant. But Gu Mingming did not dare to say anything. Snake was even happier because of Gu Mingming's words. He said, marrying me is even more blissful. After marriage, you just have to be responsible for being as beautiful as a flower. What about you? Responsible for earning money to support the family? Gu Mingming blurted out. Snake chuckled. From yesterday till now, he had mentioned marriage from time to time. His motive was to instill in Gu Mingming's mind that marrying him was a matter of course. Obviously, he had succeeded. Gu Mingming herself did not realize that she had silently agreed to marry him in her heart. No, Snake said softly. He placed an exquisite Western dish in front of Gu Mingming. He leaned against the table and whispered into Gu Mingming's ear. I am in charge of arranging the flowers. Gu Mingming choked on her own saliva. She stared at Snake with her beautiful eyes. Male god, you have to maintain your image as an ascetic. He was like an ice mountain that could not be reached. All the famous beauties in the school had sent him love letters, but were all ignored. The school hunk, who was said to like men, actually spoke dirty words. What happened to being a high mountain flower that was above the common people? Snake loved Gu Mingming's adorable look. He wiped away the saliva on her lips from her coughing and said innocently, I endured it when I was in a relationship. There's no reason for me to endure it after marriage, right? I'm not a teenage mutant ninja turtle. Gu Mingming was tickled by Snake'll. His straight face talking nonsense was really too out of place. It was definitely a cute contrast. Hurry up and eat. We still have to go to the company today. Gu Mingming lowered her head, not daring to make eye contact with Snake, afraid that he would say something shameless again. Snake stopped teasing her. After all, it was not good to choke while eating. So Snake sat on Gu Mingming's left side and stretched out his right hand with his palm facing upwards. Tumeng. Gu Mingming glanced sideways at him. Seeing him retract his fingers, she understood what he meant and automatically placed her hand in his palm. Then, she watched as he used his left hand to eat in satisfaction. He was really his left hand wrote, his left hand ate, and his left hand did everything. His right hand was specially used to hold her hand. Chapter 1184. After yesterday's meeting, the management had thought that the CEO hugging a woman for a meeting was already a new worldview. They did not expect today's meeting to be even more awkward. Crunch, crunch. Try it, this pistachio is quite delicious. Snake used his left hand to pinch open a pistachio and tossed the shell to one side before sending the kernel into Gu Mingming's mouth. Gu Mingming felt that she was about to be burned by the stares of the management, but Snake did not feel it at all. He looked at Gu Mingming expectantly and asked, "Do you like it?" Gu Mingming nodded and Snake took another one and started peeling it. Gu Mingming took the pistachio from Snake's hand and said, "Focus on the meeting, I will peel it myself." Snake narrowed his eyes. He did not like Gu Mingming rejecting him. He liked to peel the fruit for her. Gu Mingming knew what this master was thinking about again. She smiled in an ingratiating manner and said, "Focus on the meeting. The earlier it ends, the earlier we can go home. I will peel it myself, Go home earlier. These 4 words pleased Snake. Snake nodded his head reluctantly. The moment his gaze shifted away from Gu Mingming's face, it turned cold and sinister. He looked at the director who was giving his report without a single hair out of place. Then, his left hand tapped lightly on the keyboard. He was decisive and did not hesitate at all. His judgment was shockingly accurate. As a result, the situation became awkward. Other than the rustling sounds of flipping through documents, Elvis's typing on the keyboard, and the crunch sounds of Gu Mingming peeling pistachios, Gu Mingming felt like she was about to break down. She had thought that eating 2 would be enough, but the moment she stopped, Snake immediately turned around and asked, "Why aren't you eating? Are you tired from peeling? Let me do it." No, I just want to drink some water." Snake opened the bottle on the meeting table and handed it to Gu Mingming. His expression as he watched her drink the water was so sweet that it was scary. The management looked at each other. Was this idiot sitting at the head of the table smiling as he watched someone eat pistachios and drink water really their high and mighty CEO? Was he a sperm bank? Gu Mingming had a whole morning of happiness, while Snake, on the other hand, because Gu Mingming wanted to go home earlier, compressed the originally fast-paced problems into an even crazier manner, and finished them all in one morning. At noon, he did not want Gu Mingming to eat takeaway again, so he directly brought her home and personally made lunch for her. Gu Mingming felt that although her superior was her boyfriend, he should not be a leech, right? So she volunteered to wash the dishes, but Snake smiled and said, "Your beautiful hands are not suitable for work. But I can't just do nothing every day." Gu Mingming felt a little helpless and said, "It's a monthly salary of 4,500, I feel guilty taking it." Snake thought for a moment and chuckled. Then he pulled Gu Mingming behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Then you can hug me." Gu Mingming nodded. Huh. Gu Mingming was confused. Snake chuckled. "This is an important job that no one else can do besides you. In the future, when I wash the dishes, you can hug me from behind." Chapter 1185. In the afternoon, Snake hugged Gu Mingming and asked, "Let's go on a date, all right?" Gu Mingming chuckled at Snake. "Can you go out as you please?" Snake countered, "Why not?" Gu Mingming said, "Yet in the novels when the CEO is too famous he will be surrounded and blocked whenever he goes out." Snake pinched Gu Mingming's little nose and said, "There are very few people who know that I am the CEO of Monsieur. And among those who know, no one dares to announce my identity other than you. Therefore, his fame was probably only limited to the swimming competitions he had participated in over a year ago. Do you think there would be people chasing after a city-level swimming champion?" Gu Mingming thought about it. So what if Snake was handsome? When she first found out that he was her senior in the same school, she only sighed and said, "Wow, there's a celebrity in the school." She never thought of chasing after him. But thinking of Snake's first practice after he reformed the basketball club, Gu Mingming felt that there were too many idiots in this world. Who knows, there might really be someone who squinted at his swimsuit photo. He did not know what she was thinking about, but seeing that she did not speak, he took it as a yes. So he pulled her little hand and kissed it, asking, "Where do you want to go to play?" Gu Mingming shook her head and wanted to tell him to forget it and not to go out. But Snake understood that Gu Mingming did not have any particular place she wanted to go. So he said, "All right, I will arrange it." Gu Mingming. Forget it. He was the CEO, so he had the final say. Snake chose a couple's sportswear and changed into it before bringing Gu Mingming to the amusement park. Yes, without any surprises or suspense, Snake had reserved the entire place. Gu Mingming stood at the entrance of the amusement park and watched as the employees shouted out the welcoming slogan in unison. She was once again thrown into disarray. Why don't we call a few friends over to play together? Gu Mingming tried to test the waters. Elvis frowned. He wanted to be alone with Gu Mingming. But facing her expectant and nervous gaze, Snake sighed and compromised. He took out his phone and dialed Zhang Jincheng's number. All club members, amusement park, 20 minutes. With that, he hung up. Gu Mingming stared at Snake, dumbfounded. Can he understand what you said? Snakel said. The time, the person and the location are clear enough. Even if he's an idiot who didn't manage to score double digits in his Chinese exams, he should have the most basic understanding. Gu Mingming was speechless. If she was Zhang Jincheng, she would definitely not understand what Snakel was talking about. But he had already compressed his work to the maximum just to accompany her on a date. Gu Mingming did not want to spoil the atmosphere of a first date, so she could only smile and say, "Then can I also call a few friends over?" Snake raised his eyebrows and said, "You want to call your roommates?" Gu Mingming nodded. Snake did not say a word. He just placed one hand on Gu Mingming's shoulder and gently pulled her into his arms. He kissed the top of her head as a silent agreement. Gu Mingming then took out her cell phone to pass to Bailan. "Bailan, are you free? Do you want to come to the amusement park? I'll introduce my boyfriend to you." Chapter 1186. Gu Mingming smiled awkwardly. When she wanted to speak again, Bailan had already hung up. Gu Mingming sneaked a glance at Elvis before whispering, Bailan is a nice person, just a little hot-tempered. She has no ill intentions, I know." Snake rubbed Gu Mingming's little head gently. He knew that this Bailan was Gu Mingming's friend since high school. She had fought with others more than once for Gu Mingming, and was a very loyal lady. Every time Gu Mingming decided to swallow her anger, she would be the one to grab her arm and rush out to tell her, "I'm not dead, no one can bully my girl." Once, in order to help Gu Mingming ask for a salary, she was beaten up by the restaurant's security guard and had to stay in the hospital for 2 months. Even now, there was still a scar on her back. Snake found out about this through Gu Mingming's memories, because at that time he appeared in front of Gu Mingming covered in blood with a salary envelope and said to her, "Girl, I've taken back what they owed you." Gu Mingming's eyes widened. Then the image of her falling onto the ground had a huge impact on Gu Mingming, so she remembered it very clearly. But Gu Mingming and the rest did not know that Snake could only allow this incident to happen in order not to affect Gu Mingming's life. But after that, Bailan was hospitalized using a medical insurance card. But the medicines she used were all imported and could not be reimbursed. The doctors were all experts invited by Snake from overseas, pretending to be ordinary doctors. As for the shop that owed Gu Mingming her salary, it was said that the shop owner was addicted to drugs and went bankrupt to buy drugs. In the end, he cut open his own stomach and said that he wanted to sell his organs to buy drugs. Gu Mingming did not need to know about these things, and Snake would not tell her either. But towards a friend like Bailan, Snake was still willing to give her some face. After all, during those years when he could not appear, Gu Mingming was fortunate to have such a friend by her side. About half an hour later, Zhang Jincheng and the basketball team arrived at the entrance of the amusement park. They rushed over anxiously and asked, "Where is the other party?" Gu Mingming and Snake looked at each other in shock. "The other party? Who?" Zhang Jincheng looked at the two unbelievably calm people and was stunned for a moment. Then he cleared his throat and asked, "You're looking for us so urgently, is it because someone is waiting for you? Why are you blocking us?" Gu Mingming stared dumbfounded at Zhang Jincheng, who was holding a baseball bat, and the others who were wearing finger rings. She was stunned for a moment before she understood. They had received Snake's call and thought that someone was bullying him, so they rushed over to help fight. Gu Mingming smiled and waved her hands. No, senior, you've misunderstood. Snake's relative is the caretaker of this amusement park. Today, the amusement park is undergoing maintenance and will not be open to the public. His relative said that he can entertain his friends for an afternoon of free entertainment. That's why Snake called you to invite you over to play with everyone. Zhang Jincheng heaved a sigh of relief and rested the baseball bat on his shoulder. Not knowing whether to laugh or cry, he said, "Oh my F***ck, I F***king thought you were being chased by someone. So you called us out to play." Snake ignored Zhang Jincheng and just looked at Gu Mengmeng unhappily. She called Zhang Jincheng Sr. That was supposed to be a title that belonged only to him, but she actually called someone else. Aside from the topic. Chapter 1187. Snake pulled Gu Mingming's hand and stood up. He looked at Zhang Jincheng and said, "There will be more people coming later. Wait here for them, I have something to say to Tumeng." With that, Snake pulled Gu Mengmeng into the amusement park. The amusement park had already been emptied. Other than the workers standing by the rides, there was no one else. Not far in, there was a 2-story merry-go-round. Snake pushed the door open and pressed Gu Mengmeng into the carriage. Seeing that they were seated, the workers started the game. The merry-go-round was accompanied by romantic music. Gu Mengmeng stared blankly at Snake, who was pressing his hands on her shoulders. He was obviously angry. She asked, "What happened?" "He was fine just now." "Call me," Snake said. Gu Mengmeng did not understand. "Senior." Snake lowered his head and kissed Gu Mengmeng's lips harshly. It was as if he was punishing her. Until Gu Mengmeng's lips were swollen from his kiss, Snake looked up. His chest was heaving up and down. "I am not special to you at all, right? Just like all the other boys in school. Just one of your many seniors?" Gu Mengmeng's eyes widened. She did not understand. "How can that be? You are my boyfriend." This sentence successfully pacified him. Snake's anger was reduced by half. Loosening his grip, Snake sat down beside Gu Mengmeng and said unhappily, "But who can tell from the sound of it? You call me Zhang Jincheng, and me the same way." Gu Mengmeng shrugged helplessly. "Didn't you give me the title of senior?" Snake said, "Then you can't call others that." Gu Mengmeng said, "Then what should I call him? Zhang Jincheng? Brother Zhang? Brother Jincheng?" Snake's face darkened the more Gu Mengmeng spoke. He did not like hearing her call someone else's name, especially when that name belonged to a male. His temples throbbed. He looked at Gu Mengmeng with a gloomy gaze. Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing. She wrapped her arms around Snake's arm. "How about I don't call you senior anymore? I will call you Akel. How about that?" Snake's anger instantly dropped to 0. He clenched his jaw proudly, but the corners of his lips curled upwards unknowingly. Akoran sounds so nice. At first, she was unwilling to call him that. He knew that when she called him that, it would be very pleasing to the ear. "Achi, Bailan and the others will be here soon. I want to introduce you to my friends as my boyfriend. Don't make them wait. First impressions are very important, okay?" Snake's mood became even better. Tumeng was willing to introduce him to her friends instead of refusing to acknowledge their relationship, and constantly reminding him to keep his distance, making him look like a wild man who could not be seen. "All right, Akel, let's go." Gu Mengmeng shook Snake's arm and said, "If Bailan doesn't see me welcoming her at the door later, she will really take out a 40-meter-long sword to hack me." Elvis did not know what to do with Gu Mengmeng, so he stood up straight and walked out of the carriage with her. Seeing the two of them coming down, the staff pressed the button to stop the game. Only then did Gu Mengmeng and Snakel walk out together. Chapter 1188. Bailan. Gu Mengmeng called out, then let go of Snake and jogged over to Bailan. She held on to Bailan's arm and smiled fawningly. "Say, which one is it?" Bailan asked exasperatedly, pointing at the basketball club members who were standing in a row. Gu Mengmeng knew that Bailan was asking which one was her boyfriend. Blushing, she pulled Bailan back and turned to look at Snake. "This is my boyfriend, Akel. This is my best friend, Bailan." Bailan was stunned for 2 seconds when she saw Snake. Then she pulled Gu Mengmeng over. "Girl, this fellow has nothing but his face. Why did you fall for him?" The veins on Snake's forehead twitched. He had lived 2 lifetimes, and this was the first time he had heard such an evaluation. Gu Mingming broke out in cold sweat at Bai Lan's words. She shook her head. No, Akel is a very good person. He treats me very well too. Good my ass, Bai Lan said. Who in the school doesn't know that he is a playboy? If you get together with him, what's the difference between poking a hornet's nest? The incident on the school forum 2 days ago was caused by Mo Bebe's jealousy of you two being together, right? Let me tell you, with your cowardly manner, if you get involved with him, those lascivious bees and butterflies will devour you whole. Moreover, who doesn't know that he is a piece of ice that has been frozen for 10,000 years? He has no taste and does not know romance. His 6 senses are pure and his 4 senses are empty. Damn it, he could become a monk just by changing his hair. You are not even a white-bone demon. Why are you hanging out with Xuanzang? Bai Lan pulled Gu Mingming back to the basketball club members. Girl, let me tell you, if it was him, I would rather you choose one of these grandsons as your first love. At least if they dare to bully you, I can help you break their 3 legs. Snake pulled Gu Mingming back from Bai Lan's hands. He stared at Bai Lan with a venomous gaze. A sinister sense of danger loomed over her. Gu Mingming was extremely embarrassed. She pushed Snake and said, Don't be like this. Bai Lan said that because she doesn't understand you, I will talk to her nicely. Don't be angry. Bai Lan said. See, they've just started dating and you already have to coax him. In the future, won't you let him shit all over your neck? Gu Mingming's face twitched and she held on to Bai Lan's hand, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She shot Snake a look and said, Akel, the rule in our hostel is that the boyfriend must treat everyone to drinks on the first meeting. You go and buy it, okay? Snake did not want to leave Gu Mingming's side even for a second, but he knew that this rule was not something that Gu Mingming came up with on the spur of the moment. He wanted to gain the approval of the people around her. Although Bai Lan had belittled him to the point that he was worthless, he was still someone that Gu Mingming cared about, so he could tolerate it. Nodding, Snake gave Zhang Jincheng a look. Zhang Jincheng automatically called everyone in the basketball club over to the Starbucks opposite the amusement park. A caramel macchiato was distributed according to the number of people present. When they returned after buying everything, they saw the few girls chatting and laughing together. The atmosphere was already very good. Snake took a cup of macchiato and passed it to Gu Mingming. Here, drink this. I asked them to add more caramel. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.